Alright, what's up guys? Sorry I haven't made a video in a while. A lot on my plate. Maybe I'll make some more videos explaining that, but I just wanted to make this video right now because I just got finished with the JLPT N1, and so that's why I'm in my car. And I figured I'd make this video now because I know if I don't make it right now, I'm probably just gonna forget, and yeah, so I figured I'd make it now. I just kind of want to talk about. Sorry, the car's like beeping. I'm using its like CD player to put my phone on top to make the video. Also, the lighting's bad because it's already like 5 o'clock. So 5 o'clock and it's this dark outside. So, but anyways, I just kind of want to talk about how it was. Maybe give you guys some tips and advice for when you take it. So yeah, I'm just gonna get right into it. So, in my case, I'm in the Kansai area. Specifically, I'm in Wakayama, and so this year they did the test at the City Plaza, or yeah, City Plaza, Kokomin Plaza, or whatever it is. There's this building called the Wakayama Big Eye. And so they did it there, which was nice. That way I didn't have to go to Osaka, but some people, if you were in like a different area, you might have had to go to Osaka if you're in the Kansai area. Anyways, the test is split up into two parts. You probably already know this. The first part is like the reading comprehension part and like your vocabulary and grammar and all that shit. And then the second part is the listening. And the first part is the longest part. It was about 2 hours. The test started at 12:30. And it ended at like 2:40 or something like that. It was about 2 hours, I think. And then the listening section, it was about an hour. It said 55 minutes, so it was about an hour. So yeah, let's just get into it. So I kind of want to split this into two parts. I want to talk about like, like my personal opinions about just the test in general, like, what I thought about it, and then I want to talk about like advice and tips and shit like that. So first, I'm just gonna talk about like what I personally thought about the test, because I've been wanting to take the JLPT for like 2 or 3 years. In fact, like this is probably the most. Sorry, the car keeps fucking beeping because it wants me to put a CD in because I have the CD player out, but I'm using it to prop up the phone, so it's just gonna make beeping noises every once in a while. But just ignore it. But basically, so yeah, so I'm just gonna talk about what I personally felt about the test, and yeah. So what was I saying? Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. So yeah, I've been wanting to take the test for like 2 to 3 years now. In fact, this is like an unideal time. This is probably the most unideal time for me to have taken it because I haven't like studied Japanese at all. I haven't like been into the Japanese game. I just haven't been like age-adding. Obviously I'm living in Japan. I work at a Japanese company. I use Japanese every day. So some people might be like, "Oh, well, that's you're bullshitting. You're making excuses because you're interacting with your age-adding." But it's different. It's different. It's the mentality that's like important, and I haven't been in like the age-at mentality for like a long time. In fact, probably the best time for me to have taken this test was like 2 years ago, because that was like whenever I was most hardcore in age-at, and I probably would have done better. But I'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, so my personal opinions of the test. So if you're an age-adder, and a lot of people who watch this channel like are age-adders and stuff like that, you probably have already heard like other people say this, but they basically say like how kind of bullshit the JLPT is, like how meaningless it is. And now that I've actually taken it myself, I can like personally say, from first-hand experience, that that's definitely the case, because it's not testing you on your Japanese, and I can say that confidently. Like it tests you on like there are certain aspects. So don't get me wrong, it is definitely like Japanese, like. But when I say it's not testing you on your Japanese, I mean like what I'm trying to say is that you could be good at Japanese, you could be really good at Japanese, and you could fail, or you could be shit at Japanese, and you could pass. So both things could happen, and. This is awkward. A car pulled up next to me, but basically, I'm in a parking lot at a 7-Eleven, and a car pulled up next to me. But what was I saying? Yeah. So, what I mean by that is, so the first section of the test, the reading comprehension, grammar, kanji, all that. First off, obviously the words that, like, you hear this all the time, but, like, the shit that comes up in the test is not stuff that you hear. Like, don't get me wrong, there's obviously, like, common words that you'll hear all the time, especially if you're like working in Japan and stuff like that, you know, like shiryo and stuff like that. You hear that all the time. But then there will be like words that literally it's like, and it's not that the words themselves like are inherently like difficult. They're not difficult. They're just not used. It's uncommon to use them. It's like, think of a really common word, you know, and then like a really, not necessarily a word, but a really common like expression that people use, or a way that people express things. And then just throw that with like the formal textbook version of what that is. So like the similar, what's the word? Basically like the similar version of what people actually use, like in casual, you know, life or casual conversation or whatever. And then exchange that with like the textbook version of the word. And that's normally what the words and stuff are in the reading section. And like, so it starts off, and it'll ask you basically, so you have to do like, it'll ask you for the readings of words. So ask you like, you know, it'll give you like a typical word and then ask you the reading or whatever. And then there's different sections or there's different sentences, basically, questions where it'll ask you, basically like, what's the most similar like word in this context or whatever. And that's another one where it can kind of trip you up, but, what I'm trying to get at here is like, okay, and then also the listening section. This part, the listening section is the most bullshittery out of all of them. I can personally say like my best skill in Japanese is by far listening, because I mean I'm married to a Japanese person, I'm living in Japan, I work in Japan, so I'm constantly using Japanese. And even before I came to Japan, I was always much better at listening, because most of my input was always through like audio thing. It was like, you know, I was always listening and watching stuff, you know. I did read and stuff, but most of it was like listening and watching stuff. So yeah, my listening is definitely by far my best skill. And then like the past couple of years I was focusing more on like reading and shit like that. But even then, it's not about how good you are at Japanese, it's about how good you are at taking tests. And specifically, you have to have like, you hear some people, like, if you look up, like, tips and advice about taking the JLPT, people will say this, but basically, like, don't expect to pass on the first try. I don't necessarily believe that's true. I believe if you're good at Japanese, you'll probably be able to pass on the first try. I'm pretty sure I'll pass. My personal feelings about how I did is, I think I'll pass. I'm, like, 100% sure I'll pass, basically. I just won't have like an amazing score. I'm not going to get like a perfect score, but that's fine. I was never really trying to get a perfect score. I might not even get the most amazing score, to be honest, because I got tripped up, and to be honest, I'm shit at taking tests. But regardless of what happens, also I should say this too. This is very important. Yes, some people do need the JLPT to get like a job and stuff like that. Or maybe to go to college. That's like the biggest things, right? Some companies, they'll require you to have JLPT in order for you to work there, and then some companies that require you to have the JLPT in order to like enroll into a Japanese university or whatever. But those are basically the only two like times where you actually need it. And even those times, generally there's like exceptions. Like most companies that I've like heard, if you can like just prove that you're fluent in Japanese, you don't need the JLPT. You know, it's just like it's just kind of like a way for them to filter out people, you know. Obviously, if you have JLPT, at least then they can kind of guarantee that you know some Japanese, right? Same thing with college, right? But it's definitely not a necessity. In fact, in my case, like, I don't need it at all. Like, if I end up failing for whatever reason, it's not the end of the world. It just sucks because it's a waste of money, really. It's a waste of money and time. I don't know if it changes every year, but the JLPT cost me, it was like 6,500 yen. And then obviously, you know, your transportation fee, if you have to take a long train ride to get to the test station or to the test location or whatever, that's also, you know, that's going to be expensive too. But yeah, and then just the fact that you can only take it twice a year. So time and money is the only thing really that, I would have lost if I didn't pass, and that's probably the same for most of you guys. So I wouldn't really stress about it too much. I mean, it's not like again, unless you have like a specific scenario where you absolutely need it to get, to be able to do whatever you want to do, it's not like 100% necessary, right? So yeah, main thing I want to cover is it's bullshit. The test is bullshit. It's maybe like 30% about Japanese, and then like 70% about test taking skills and memorization. Especially with the listening section, loads of people say this, but like they always say like take notes and stuff like that. Which is definitely true. You definitely have to take notes, because basically in the listening section they'll give you like, it'll be like two people will have a conversation, right? And then it'll be like a 2-paragraph long conversation, like a script that they're reading, right? And then basically the answer will be within like the first couple of sentences most of the time. But then they'll just go on a fucking rant about completely other shit. And unless you were taking notes in the beginning, whenever they, ask you the question at the end, you're going to be completely lost. And that has nothing to do with whether or not you understood the Japanese. It's just basically how good you are at like taking notes and taking tests and shit like that. So, yeah, it's bullshit. And even and again, like the reading section is also kind of bullshit too, because it's words that are super uncommon for the most part, and that aren't used in daily life, or are used maybe, but like not in like common scenarios or shit like that. Like maybe you see it in a newspaper, but you never hear it in daily conversation, something like that. And then so then 2 things that I wanted to talk about, with how I felt about the test, my personal opinions. Again, 1, the test is bullshit. It's not really, it's more about, your test taking skills. And then 2, what was 2? Oh yeah, 2 is that you don't need it. You don't need it. At the end of the day, you really don't need it. Most people don't need it. In fact, there's like a little questionnaire at the, like when you sign up to take the test, and it asks you like, what's your purpose of taking the test? And there's like, like for work or for school or like for yourself, just, to see like how good you are and shit like that. And I guess most people, they do for themselves. I mean, I put for work, even though it doesn't matter, because like I already work at a Japanese company. They already know I speak Japanese. They're not going to fire me if I don't have JLPT. I mean, they hired me knowing, with understanding that I like know Japanese and I can speak Japanese. So there's that. And okay, so let's get on to like tips and advice. It's getting really dark, so I wish there was more lights in this car. I don't really think there are. There's not really much lights in the car, so I can't put on more lights, unfortunately, but you're just gonna have to bear with me. So tips and advice. So a common like thing that you hear is, so I personally, I did a little bit of studying. I will admit, I didn't fucking study nearly as much as I should have. Obviously, if you were like a hardcore age adder and stuff like that, and you were, and if you were immersing every day and you had lots of free time and shit like that, you probably don't need to study at all. But even then, it's better to study, because you have to remember, this is a test. It's not like, this isn't like, okay, well, can you live can you live, work, and function in Japan? It's not like that. This is a test. So with all tests, it's the same thing, right? You study for the test. You don't study the subject of the test. You study for the test, specifically, like what's going to be on the test. So that, I mean, that's obvious, I think. But if you didn't take that into consideration, then yeah, that's definitely something you should think about, right? Like don't just like broadly study, whatever. Like don't just, oh, I'm just gonna immerse in Japanese and like I'll be okay. Like, yeah, like again, that's gonna work for everything else. It's gonna work for you living in Japan, for you making relationships, for you finding work, from you being able to work. But with this test, it's not gonna work, because it's a test, right? So study for the test. Study what's on the test. That's the hard part, though, because they update the test every, however, they probably update it like every quarter, right? So they do 2 tests a year. I'm sure they either update like the naiyo, right? So the what's like the questions and stuff like that each test, so like the summer one and the winter one, or they do it like once a year. I'm not sure. So it's basically, and it's pretty much impossible to find the exact questions on the test, so I'd give up on that. But like another thing a lot of people do is they get like the book series. Like I had one of my friends here in Wakayama. He's this Irish guy. He lended me some of his JLPT. It was like Nihongo no Ryukshiken Kanzen Master, and I think that was the book series. I went through that, and I did like the pre-tests and the questions and stuff like that. And I mean, it helped a little bit, I guess. I mean, I don't really think it really did that much, to be honest. It probably didn't do anything, really. The only thing you could do, really, I would say, is definitely do the practice test. Do all the practice tests. Any practice tests you can find online, or any of these books. Like, there's like the official JLPT book. If you buy that book, or if you find it online for free, which you can take the practice tests, and those are going to be like the most similar to the test. And then oftentimes, like, the actual, like, when you take the practice test, for example, like in the listening section, there's always going to be like so it'll say like degai, right? Or not degai, it just says de, so example, right? And then it says practice. So like in those things, like you see on the practice test, like online and on the books or whatever, and then actually on the actual test, it's the same one. So the same exact like example is used in the test, and then also in like the study books or whatever. But that, of course, the questions are different, right? But you can get an idea of like how it is. So what I would do is I would just take these practice tests, and then I would just find out the best way of taking notes. That sounds like, obviously, you know, like taking notes is one thing, right? But you need to find out like what's the best method of taking the notes. Like, how can you basically want to be like listening. You want to put like 70% of your focus and concentration on actually listening to what they're saying. That's very important too. Don't just focus on writing the notes. The notes are pointless. The notes are pointless unless you can get the answer, right? The only reason that you're taking the notes in the first place is that you can get the answer. So don't focus on listening so you can write exactly, you know, write everything that you heard down. Because then you're going to be focusing more on taking notes rather than what was said. Focus more on what was said, and then this is the important part. You need to find a strategy, like some way where you can like yaku. You need to I'm forgetting the English word, but you basically need to shrink down all the shit that you're like. So what I did is I was just translating I would translate like the main like topics or whatever, the main things that like the key words that I knew they were like is going to be on the question. I translate them into English easily because it's like instantly basically, and then I would like write half the word, and I know what that means, you know. So like if it would be like, okay, well, a boy, or it'd be like a guy and a girl are talking about some college presentation or whatever, and then I would just fucking write like COLL or whatever, and then PRES or some shit. And that's not even the best method. I'm sure you can find a better method, but that's just what I did. But the point is like you need to find a way to like shorten everything. That way you need to be able to like, you basically need to be able to like take notes and like write down the gist of everything that was said in real time as fast as you possibly can. And then on top of that, not only that, you need to be taking the notes, obviously, but you also need to read the answers. Like, it's important. Like, so for the reading section, it's best to actually read the entire text before you look at the answers most of the time. But in the listening section, it's the opposite for the most time. You want to look at the answers, read all the answers, understand the answers, like internalize them, and then listen to the question. And then on top of that, listen to the question and multitask and take notes. So again, it's bullshit. It's not about Japanese. It's about how well you are at taking notes, how fast you can fucking take notes, how, efficient you are, how good your memory is. And so, yeah, I mean, so anyone else that took the JLPT today or whenever it was, I don't know I took it in Japan, obviously, so I'm not sure if the day is like the same as if you take it outside of Japan, but for anyone else who took it, good luck. I guess it seems like we're going to get the results in January next year, so in like a month or two or something like that. I think you can view the results online in like a month, so I'll make another video in a month or so whenever I get the results, and I'll talk about them. And yeah, so good luck. Hopefully this video served some purpose. I mean, if anyone out there failed the JLPT before, I wouldn't really let it get to you that much personally, because after taking the test now, I can kind of see like why all age-adders and stuff say like it's bullshit. I mean, there were certain points where it was like too easy, like this is just coming out of the top of my mind, but there was one question where it was like there was like a sentence, and then in the sentence it was like it was in the reading section, and it was the question was like, what's the word that's like the most similar to the word underlined in the sentence or whatever. And the word underlined in the sentence was spot, like in katakana. It said spotto, right? So like, it said spot, and then out of the fucking questions, one of the answers was basho. That's like the easiest fucking question. I mean, like, surely that shouldn't be on the hardest fucking test. So again, there's like certain points where it was like, it was easy, like, but then there was also certain points where it was like, it was hard, but not because it was Japanese. Also in the reading section, there was like some really fucking philosophical fucking, like on my test, I don't know, maybe it's probably different, again, like each quarter or whatever, each test, yeah, they do, but like, because they changed the questions, but on the one I took, like, there was really philosophical, long-ass fucking thing. It was like, it was more of like, decipher the meaning of life rather than, okay, what does this Japanese mean? It was, and so, yeah, that was kind of difficult, too. Oftentimes they ask vague questions, too. That's a big thing you need to, like, take into account. Like, so you can study as much Japanese as you want, but, like, when you get hit with one of those really vague questions, like, hey, what did the author mean whenever he said this one specific thing? And it's like, so, of course, yeah, there is a part of that is Japanese, but that's also, that's kind of, like, up to you to decipher, right? So, anyways, again, just wanted to make this video because it's fresh on my mind. Good luck to any of you guys who took the test. Good luck to any of you guys who are going to take the test here soon. Oh, also, big thing I forgot to point out. This is something that pissed me off, actually. Okay, so, let's see. I'm going to hide my address. Okay, okay, it's not even on here. Okay, so, you can't even see because it's so fucking dark, right? I wish I could show you, but, so obviously when you take the test or whatever, before you take the test, like, a few weeks before your test date is scheduled, you're gonna get a jukenhyo, so your test voucher, and it's gonna come in the mail, the post, right? When you get this, obviously this is gonna sound obvious, but read the whole fucking thing, every little thing, even the small little fucking text, because here's one thing. This is like a big tip, okay? I hope you guys were like watching to the end because this fucked me over. But basically, let's see, where is it? So on this page, so on the page with your information, basically, so it's got like your picture and your information and the test location or whatever. Wherever the test location is, on the very bottom of the page, again, you're not going to be able to see because it's so dark, but you can probably see there's like some red text that's really small. Well, guess what? I didn't fucking read that because it was fucking so small. I didn't realize, right? But in very tiny, like, I'm straining my eyes to be able to read it, but it literally says, kuruma de konai de kudasai. So, don't come by car. It also says, don't come by car, motorcycle, like bike, anything like that, right? And the reason why it says this, and I don't know if it says this for everyone, I have an idea, considering, just with my knowledge of Japan, that it probably does say this for every single one. They want you to come by train or bus, so basically they want you to come from, they want you to come by train or bus, with public transportation, because they don't want to pay your fucking parking ticket. And in most places, they're probably going to have it in like a massive building, like a city plaza or a city hall type, like, one of those big buildings where where there's lots of space and shit like that. And so there's probably going to be paid parking. And they don't want to pay for your parking because they're little fucking scumbags. So make sure you read that, because obviously you can see I'm in my car, right? And so I went by car because I didn't fucking see this, because the fucking, I mean, it's so tiny, like I'm straining my eyes to be able to see it. So I didn't see that, and so and I went in after the test. I went and I asked. There's the fucking GG or whatever, that was fucking one of the test instructors. I asked the fucking GG. Dude had awful fucking attitude. And I was being nice and everything. I was just asking him, because normally in Japan, like, if you go shopping or whatever, or if, you go somewhere, like, if you have a reason why you're supposed to be somewhere, right, and you went by car and you parked in their paid parking area, normally, before you leave, whatever, you go up to the counter and then you can ask them, and then they'll give you, like, your parking ticket, that way, or, like, a free parking card, that way you don't have to fucking pay, because you had a purpose of being there, right? So I asked them if I could get, like, a free parking card or whatever, right? or I said, like, I just realized that, you know, I just realized there's, like, this part down here. I couldn't see because the characters were so small. The text was so small. And as soon as I said that, the guy was just like I was like, you know, 車で来ない、you know, ここに車で来ないでくださいって書いてるんですけど、車で来ちゃったんですよ。で、駐車場止めちゃったんですよ。で、and as soon as I said that, he was like, he's like, 仕方ないね。仕方ない。He was like, 仕方ないね。もう止めちゃったからね。止めちゃった。like, oh, you know, you're a fucking idiot. You know, you didn't read this, you know, and it's your fault for parking in there. And then, after that, you know, I kind of made a complaint. I basically said, you know,字がちっちゃすぎて見えなかったんですよ。気づかなかったんですよ。You know? And he was like,そう。And he was like, じゃあ言うときますわ。You know, in fucking Kansai Ben or whatever. And, you know, 字がちっちゃいだと。You know, and he like mumbled that at the end. 字がちっちゃいだと言うときますわ。You know? And just like he was making fun of me, you know, like, oh, you know. So keep that in mind. Like every little thing, even here, you can see there's like a bunch of text. It's all small and shit like that. I mean, I read all this, you know, and of course I read all my like fucking, you know, like the test voucher information, like my number and all the basic information. But literally read every single word on the thing, because there might be something that you missed. And I had to pay a fucking parking ticket. It was like, it wasn't as expensive as I thought. It was only 500 yen, but still, I mean, I paid, you know, nearly 7,000 yen to take the test. You'd think that they, you know, would fucking pay 500 yen for my parking ticket, you know. Also, it's kind of annoying because this is Wakayama. This is a rural place in Japan. Like, 80% of people drive a car, you know. Not many people take public transportation. I mean, yeah, people do take public transportation, but, like, most people have a car, and it's more convenient for them to get around by car, and it takes less time. So to specifically say, like, don't come by car, bike, it also says don't come by car, bike, or motorcycle. So it's like, that limits a lot of your options. But anyways, that's just my kind of like little rant or video. I just wanted to talk about my experience. Again, good luck. Let me know what your opinion is. Anyone out there who took it. And again, I'll make a video in a month whenever I get the results, and I'll let you know how it went. Alright, that's all from me. Peace. See ya.